everyone, I am Priyanka Wilson and welcome to GS Code series of decoding the UPSC syllabus with macro detailing of topics. So in this session, Prince Mishra sir will be dealing with the human geography section of the syllabus. So guys, if you like this video, please share and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for regular updates. Thank you.
Hello everyone, in this session we will continue our discussion of micro detailing of GS Geography syllabus for UPSC prelims and mains. In the previous three sections we have identified the subtopics that you are supposed to study related to world physical geography, India physical, India mapping and the economic geography. Now we come to last part of our micro detailing related to the GS geography, that is human geography, and along with the human geography I have also included the topics related to the world mapping. So what are the topics that you are supposed to study in the human geography? Before dealing with the topics, before looking into the micro details, micro topics related to human geography, first let's try to look out that where this human geography is mentioned as part of UPSC syllabus. So when you will look out the UPSC syllabus, you will find the mentioning of human geography is only at the prelims stage. So human geography, you will find it is, human geography is only given as part of the prelims. So in a mains, in a way you will find the topics are not being mentioned in the mains examination. So topics related to the human geography is not written explicitly in the mains examination. If the topics related to the human geography is not explicitly given in the UPSC mains syllabus, so the first question that you need to understand, or you need to have clarity that whether the questions are being asked from the human geography in mains examination or not. The clear answer of this question is regularly you will get the questions from the human geography in mains examination. So this is one very important information that you need to know, that in spite of these topics are not clearly mentioned in the mains syllabus, but still regularly you will get the questions in your mains examination. So those who are studying, those who are just relying on the syllabus, they need to be very much clear that if you will skip the human geography syllabus, obviously you are going to miss some of the questions. You will not be in a position to answer the question in your mains examination. Coming to the prelims examination syllabus, so the prelims syllabus you will find Indian and world geography, that is physical, social, economic. So social geography, which is part of your human geography, cultural geography, is very well given in your UPSC prelims syllabus, but not in the main syllabus. So prelims syllabus mein diya hai but not given in the main syllabus doesn't mean that you are supposed to just study from the prelims point of view. No, you need to study the human geography both from the prelims perspective and also from the mains perspective. The main difference will be that in the prelims perspective your orientation should be to get more and more fact, to get more knowledge, more information. So prelims जब आप वही टॉपिक पढ़ेंगे it should be informative, but when you will look out the same topics related to the mains examination, your approach should be to look out the issues related to those topics. So what are the main subtopics of human geography that you are supposed to study? So first we'll take up the human geography. Other than the human geography, I have also included the world mapping. So mapping we already have looked out from the India perspective. But other than the India perspective, world mapping is also being asked in the prelims examination. So regularly you will get questions, one question in some year 2 to 3 questions in your prelims examination. So world mapping bhi aapko tackle karna. So what are the main topics related to the human geography that you are supposed to study? Broadly, this human geography topics can be grouped in 4 major subcategories. So primarily you are supposed to study the population, topics related to demography, then you will have migration, then you will have urbanization, then you will have settlement. So primarily you are supposed to study the topics of population, urbanization, migration, settlement. We will look out that what are the different micro topics under the population you are supposed to study. Migration के अंदर क्या पढ़ना है, urbanization क्या पढ़ना है. But beforehand, let me tell you one very important thing. In last session, we have identified the topics related to the economic geography. So whatever the topics we have identified, let's quickly recall. Agriculture, industry, resources, transport, communication. So these are the broadly topics that you are supposed to study from the economic perspective. So economic geography mein you are supposed to study these topics, and these topics are you are supposed to study in your human geography perspective. But one thing that you need to be very clear beforehand, that these topics should not be studied in isolation. You are supposed to study these topics within the backdrop of, let's say you are studying the human geography, so you need to link up with the economic geography, and in broader perspective within the backdrop of physical geographical perspective. Let's try to understand in this way. Let's say we have a migration. So migration is very important issue in our country. People migrate from the rural area to urban area. We have a different type of migration. In that, one of the type of migration is a rural to urban migration. We call it as a rural out migration. In India, migration is very rampant. People migrate from the rural to urban area in search of job, in search of better livelihood. Now the question arises that why people are migrating. So agar aap uski, if you will try to go to the root cause of that, then you will find definitely there is a problem in agriculture. Agriculture is not performing. So you need to know the issue of agriculture, and agriculture is not performing. Simultaneously, the industrial development is also not there in the rural area. So when the people are migrating to the urban area, over the period of time, huge number of people will settle in one particular area, that is referred as urban area, and then the problem will start appearing in that urban area. So we have a lot of issue in the urbanization. So issue in the urbanization is primarily related with the migration. Issue in the urbanization is also associated with the settlement, that we have two types of settlement, rural settlement, urban settlement. In urban settlement, some of the places you will have some of the problem. So in a way, what I am trying to make you understand beforehand, before looking to the micro topics that you are supposed to study, that all the topics of human and economic geography you need to study. While studying, you need to look up the topics in an integrated manner. Interlinkages of the topic is very important from your examination point of view, specifically in the mains examination. If you will go for the individual study of these topics like population, migration, urbanization, settlement, agriculture, industry, trade, transport, resources, water issues, so might be you will be able to perform well in your prelims. But for the mains examination, when you will handle some of the issues, when you will answer some of the issue-based question, for that interlinkages of the topic, knowledge of interlinkages of topic will be checked. Alright, so you are supposed to study the population, migration, urbanization and settlement. Now, population is one of the important topic of human geography, but let me make it very clear. This is the topic which is most neglected by the geography students. So most of the students who study the geography from the GS perspective, who is not having the geography optional, they always have tendency to ignore this human geography. Why they ignore? Because there are various reasons, but one reason definitely is the lack of content, lack of literature. तो GS का जो material है उसमें you will have a less availability of material related to the topics of population, migration, urbanization. उसकी वजह से most of the students ignore these topics. Their idea is that these topics can be dealt in some other area. So in some other area, in some other discipline, definitely these topics can be tackled, but the topics will not be dealt from the perspective of geographical perspective, that is spatial variation and the temporal variation. So that is why you need to very much clear that you have to study these topics in the human geography. So which of the topics you will study? First of all, you just need to understand the population as a phenomena, because the population is a very, almost you can say, It's as old as the humanity itself. So whenever the humans have arrived on this planet from that time period, you will have this history of population goes. So population is associated with the people, and people must have arrived on this planet in some geological history. So first of all, you need to know the demographic aspect. Now in this demographic attributes, there are various attributes that you need to look out. In the modern time, when we look out the demographic attributes, so in this primarily we are concerned about the birth rate, we are concerned about the death rate. So what is this birth rate, what is this death rate, how this birth rate and death rate changes? This birth rate and death rate will changes over the different regions and also within the different time period. So let's try to understand. If you will look out the birth rate of our country at the beginning of 20th century, so birth rate of our country in 1901 to 2001, you will find there is a variation. Here birth rate was very high, birth rate has declined, and in the present time period also, if you will look out the places, let's say you will have the UP and you will have the Tamil Nadu, Kerala. So you will find there is a variation in the total fertility rate. So birth rate, death rate, it will vary within the space and also within the time. So birth rate and death rate is associated with the natural growth. Natural growth. Then the history of census, how the census started, like in India, there has been a several attempt to enumerate the population of our country, starting from the time of Kautilya's, then you will have the medieval time period, then in Mughal time period, but the successful attempt has been made by the Britishers, and it was from the 1872 when the census enumeration have started in our country. After every 10 years, the census is being done. So various data we enumerate through the census. So some of the data that we enumerate you need to know, like you need to know the sex ratio, you need to know how many people are living in the rural area, urban area, then the literacy rate, what is this literacy rate, how it vary, then population density is what, why in some of the area you will find the density is higher, in some area density is less. Like if you will look out in the present time period, even in our country, most of the northern plain area, the fertile plain, where you will have the best fertile soil and also accessibility to the water. So in the best fertile Ganga Satluj plain, you will find that the population density is very high. In other part of the country, you will find the population density is comparatively lesser. Specifically, if you will look out the mountainous area, the area where the life can be little bit difficult, there are some geographical limitation. So obviously, you will find the population density is lesser. From that perspective, you can look out the, you need to know what is this concept of equmean, what is this concept of non-equmean. Now, from this population density, you also need to look out the population growth, natural growth of population. But in case of census, like in our country, the census happens after every 10 years. That is why we are less concerned about the population growth. Rather, we are more concerned about the decadal population growth. So, how the population varies within the 10 years. So, decadal population growth. Then the population distribution. Population distribution, as you will find that India is having the 1.3 billion population, but this 1.3 billion population is not equally distributed. Not only in India, even if you will look out throughout the world, where we have around 7 billion population. So this 7 billion population is mainly distributed in some pockets. Like you will have the South Asia, you will have the East Asia, you will have the North America. So there are several pockets where the mainly population is concentrated, whereas there will be a lot of area where the population is not. So you need to know the population distribution, and along with that, the factors, the reasons why that is. why the population is being distributed, how it is being distributed. So factors of population distribution. Then the different races that are present in our country, because you must have come across with different people, and if you will look out, if you will try to analyze, then you will find most of the people you can guess that these people might be from the northern India, southern India, eastern India, western India. There will be a variation of height, there will be variation of the head size, the shape of the eyes, shape of the lips. So there are certain attributes through which you can differentiate between the people, and that differentiation is mainly associated with the races. So racial differentiation. Racial differentiation is a very important, very valid concept. But the problem will occur when the people will start discriminating on the basis of racial differentiation. So we need to look out the different races that are present in our country, how these races have arrived in India. So the time period when these races have arrived, whether the races have arrived in one go or the races have arrived in different go. And if they have arrived in different time periods, so how they have moved to the locations where they are. So their distribution, it's a distribution also. Now the different tribes and its distribution. In India, we have the different number of tribal population. Around 8.6% of our population, around 8.6% country's population is the scheduled tribe. Now these scheduled tribe population are concentrated in few pockets, like you will have the northeastern India, then you will have the Chota Nagpur Plateau, central Indian region, then you will have the southern peninsula, western part of the country, the Himalayan region. So these are the mainly places where the tribals are there. Then within that tribes, we have the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So who are these particularly vulnerable tribal groups? How some of the tribes are being categorized as particularly vulnerable tribal groups? So these are the things that you are supposed to study. Then tribals happens to be very neglected people of our country, and there exists lot of problem issues related to the tribal. So tribals have lots of issues, lots of problem. So you need to look out that what are the main issue, main problem. Most of the issue, most of the problems in the present time, of course, it will appear that tribals have several problems. But if you will look out the history of that, then you will find most of these problems genesis goes to the British time period, and during the British time period they followed almost a discriminatory policies against the tribal. Now the reason behind that discriminatory policy was very clear, because the Britishers was mainly interested in the resources, and most of these people, most of these tribals were the forest dwellers. So they were living in the forest area, and the forest was having a huge resources. Forest itself was in mainly a very great natural resource, and in addition to that, in addition to the forest, these regions also have the huge quantity of mineral resources, metallic mineral, non-metallic mineral. So due to availability of all these resources, Britishers have followed some of the very regressive policies against the particularly tribals. Even when the country got freedom, then also some of those mistrust has not been initially almost narrowed down, it has not been filled up. That is the reason why even after the independence, these people feel themselves as alienated. Of course, in later part of the century, government have done several measures, government have taken several measures to bring these people in the mainstream and tackle those issues which these tribal population are facing. So the tribal problems, the main issues, and also the governmental approach to sort out these issues. Then comes a very important issue in the modern time period, that is population aging. When the population aging issue comes, in general we have a notion that population aging issue is only existing in some of the developed country. So it appears that the population aging is a issue that will be only present in the some developed country like Japan, New Zealand, Denmark. These are the countries which are in the later part of their demographic transition. If they are later part of the demographic transition in the late transition period, so obviously the population has stabilized, the birth rate have gone down very low and birth rate is also very low. So obviously, and also due to the advancement of healthcare facilities, people are having more tendency to live. So when the living condition have improved, healthcare facilities have improved, obviously life expectancy will go up. In that backdrop, more and more number of people will become aged people. So in general, the perception is that the population aging is phenomena that is associated with the developed country. But when you will study the population aging, you will realize that this population aging is not a only phenomena of the developed country. Even in the countries like India, we have the problem of population. You will be surprised to know that India is having the largest aged people in the world. So largest number of aged people is living in our country. So population aging, the issues associated with it, what are the main issues it is bringing, how it is affecting the social security measures, how it is putting up more pressure on the government. So whole governance will be almost affected. So all these issues you are supposed to study. Then very important issue, sun meta preference. Sun meta preference is associated with the sex ratio. You must be knowing that our country's sex ratio is not that much healthy. Even in general, sex ratio is not healthy. But if you look out the some of the specific areas, then you will find there happens to some of the developed states, like you will have the Haryana, Punjab. These are the states where the child sex ratio is very low. So child sex ratio is very low, and what are the some reasons and why people are having more preference for the sun? This term has been coined by the economic survey. So this sun meta preference, where the people will not stop having the babies until they will have the desired number of sons will be born. And in that process, obviously, there will be large number of unwanted girl children. Large number of unwanted girl children. So already the girls, females faces lot of discrimination. So they will not be given the proper education, they will not be available proper healthcare facility, nutrition problem, early age marriages hoga, so definitely they will become a early mother also. And when they will become a mother, obviously the health of both the mother and child will get affected, impacted. So that sun meta preference. Then demographic windows of opportunity. India is having very large number of population, but the size of the people which are in the working age, their number is very high. And because we have a very high number, and we have also launched a lot of skill development program, and also our education, higher education, technical education is very strong. In that backdrop, Indian population, or the population in India, large number of people in India, is not being considered as a problem. It is being looked upon as a opportunity potential. That is your demographic window of opportunity. Then in the end, when you will have large number of people and the people are asset, so human resource is good, and these people are considered as demographic dividend, demographic opportunity, but there will be issue of food. Why food? Because when you will have large number of people, obviously they will require food. And in the backdrop, when more and more people are not ready to do the farming activity, तो एक तरफ एग्रीकल्चर से लोग वापस जा रहे हैं, एग्रीकल्चर नहीं करना चाहते, और पॉपुलेशन बढ़ रही है, so obviously we require more and more food. So the population and the food security. So these are the topics that you are supposed to study. Now, from this population topics, you will get regular question in both your prelims as well as mains. Like there was one question related to the particularly vulnerable tribal groups in India. So PVTs resides in 18 states and 1 UT. A stagnant or declining population is one of the criteria for determining PVTs. There are 95 PVTs officially notified in the country so far. Irula and Konda Reddy tribes are included in the list of PVTs. So you will find the questions like this. One more question. With reference to the Changpa community of India, consider the following statement. They live mainly in the state of Uttarakhand. They rear the Pashmina goats. They yield a fine wool. They are kept in the category of scheduled tribes. So these are the questions that has been asked in the prelims. Now, questions also being asked in the mains examination. So how the questions will be asked, like discuss the main objective of population education and point out the measures to achieve them in India in detail. So population is important topics, and questions regularly asked in the prelims and mains. But if you will prepare the population and within the backdrop of micro topics that we have provided, definitely you will be able to handle the question. Now, the next topic is migration. Migration is also linked up with the demography. Migration is also linked up with the settlement. Migration is also linked up with the particularly urbanization. So migration is a topic that is very much associated with all the other topics of human geography. But first of all, what you are supposed to study in migration, first you need to understand what is the concept of migration. So what is this concept of migration? Do we have any theories of migration? So some of the theories in the briefly, like Ravenstein's law. So these theories can also be studied. So Ravenstein's law are related to the migration. Then different types of migration. Migration have multiple types. So you are not having only one type. It is based on the criteria. Like if you will look out from the perspective of where the migration is happening. So we have international migration, domestic migration. International migration, domestic. So when the people are going out of the country, international; when the people are moving within the country, domestic. Within the international migration, you will find that there will be in migration, out migration. So immigration and emigration. Then you will have in domestic, there will be a various type. Like in our country, we have a primarily rural to rural migration, rural to urban migration, urban to urban migration, and urban to rural migration. So four type of domestic migration. Then the migration is also being categorized on the basis of the determinants. So there are certain determinants of migration, like you will have the social determinants, you will have economic determinants, you will have political determinant, demographic determinant. So based on that, we have the social migration, we have the economic migration, we have the political migration, we have the demographic migration. Even the migration is also being categorized on the basis of the causes of migration. So whether it is a push migration or whether it is a pull migration. So we have a two major category of migration based on the causes, like push migration and pull migration. So when the people are forced to move out from any area, let's say you will have the natural hazard. So whole in the rural area, if whole agricultural land has been flooded by the river, if the whole agricultural land is being flooded by the rainfall, so obviously the people will be forced to migrate. Or let's say you will have the large scale landslide, sudden some of the earthquake phenomena or some avalanches in the mountainous area, so people will be forced to migrate. Even not due to all the natural reasons, sometime due to the normal reason also, like agriculture is not performing and the farmer is not able to feed their family. So obviously they will be forced to migrate, or they are not having any job in the rural area. तो अगर job नहीं है तब भी आपका जो farmer है, the people है, rural people, they will migrate. So there will be a push migration, but sometime might be the farmer is having some livelihood in the rural area. तो ऐसा नहीं कि उसके पास livelihood नहीं है, but still they are having he aspire to have better life. He tries to have better life, he tries to give better education to their children, he tries to give better healthcare facility to their parents, and in that pursuit, when the people are moving from one place to another place, that will be your pull migration. Like in most of the urban area you will find in the modern time, people will migrate from one part of the country to the other, especially in the urban area, specifically in the service sector. So people are working in the service sector, and when they are working, let's say in the Bangalore, and they will get a job opportunity, some job offer in the Mumbai, and if they are offering more, so obviously they will move out. So they are not moving out because of the push migration. They are having the better livelihood, they are having all the accessibility of the all the luxury, but still they want some better opportunity. So when the people will move out due to the better opportunity, that is your pull migration. Then along with that causes, also you need to look out the consequences. So when the people will migrate from one area to another area, or due to the migration, what are the different consequences that happens? In the consequences, most of the time, as a student, your whole focus will be related to the places where the migration is happening. So let's suppose that there is a place from where we have out migration, and there is a place where there is going to be in migration. So when in general you look out the consequences, you mostly try to focus on this place that is in migration. But you need to study all the three. So when you will look out the consequences related to the migration, look out the consequences that will happen in the place where we have in migration, the place where we have from where the out migration is happening, and also the migrant itself. So migrants also goes through certain problems, they will also feel certain changes in their lifestyle, in their circadian rhythm, their health. So that is also you are supposed to study. So when you will look out the consequences, try to appreciate all the three elements of the migration. That is, from the place where the migration is starting, that is the place from where the starting point of the migration. Then the place where the migration is going to happen, that is in migration, and then the migrant itself. So migrant jab kahin se move kar raha, if the people are moving from rural area to urban area, just try to appreciate. Most of the time when the people are moving from the rural to urban area, specifically the farmers, so they are being treated that these are the people which create the problem in the urban area. Like most of the slum population in the urban area is being caused due to this rural to urban migration. So slum is a serious problem to the city life, to the urban area. But the people that are living in the slum area, they are also subjected to a lot of changes. So people earlier, they were living in the rural area. So in rural area, the timing of the food, the kind of food they will get, the quality of the food is different. But when they are coming to the urban area, they are changing, they are trying to accommodate themselves according to the city life. So you need to look out all the three elements. Now, international migration pattern in the 21st century, how the whole this dynamics of the migration have changed in the backdrop of all the internet revolution, internet of the things revolution, advancement in the technology, more and more the whole world is becoming like a global village, so globalization. So within that backdrop, you need to study the international migration pattern in 21st century. Then we have one new variety of migration is emerging out, that is climate migrants. The climatic migrants were very much popular, but in the backdrop of COVID-19, you will find we have a new variety of migration, and this migration is the resultant of this pandemic-led migration. So even because of this pandemic, also people will move from one part to the other. There will be a popular perception. Let's say if in one country there has been a large number of deaths, so people will avoid those countries. People will avoid those countries. Climatic migration is primarily due to the increasing phenomena, increase in the frequency and intensity of some of the hazards. Like in some of the area, the forest fire intensity frequency have increased. Like in the eastern part of North America, you will find eastern part of the North America, Central America, the frequency and intensity of tropical cyclone have increased. So more and more tropical cyclones are being witnessed, means people are subjected to undergo lot of your climatic hazards. So जहाँ पे भी climatic hazards होगा, people will have tendency to move out. Like in more and more Siberian region, northern region of the particularly northern hemisphere, the temperature is continuously rising. This summer, the temperature of Varkhoyans is the place where you will have the lowest temperature on this planet. So, वहाँ का temperature last summer it has been recorded as 39 degrees Celsius. So, just try to visualize, try to imagine the kind of harsh climatic condition are witnessed in the far northern side. And if you are having very high temperature, such a high temperature is going to be recorded in that cold condition, obviously people will have more tendency to migrate to the places where the temperature fluctuation is considerably low. Alright, so climatic migration. Then you will have the reverse migration. This reverse migration has been witnessed primarily during the pandemic. So both international as well as national, like in our country, during the lockdown, people have started moving out from their working place to the village area. So this migration is not considered as urban to rural because already the migration has happened. So people have migrated from the rural to urban area in search of job, in search of particularly education. But due to the lockdown, people were forced to go back to their homes. So people were forced to go back to the home due to the pandemic. That is referred as the reverse migration. But what this reverse migration is going to, how this reverse migration is going to affect the migrants as well as the rural area. Because the rural area already we have so many problems. So in the backdrop of the problem that is existing in the rural area, if we will have more and more people are going in that rural area, so what will happen? So reverse migration. Then also how to particularly tackle all the issues related to the migration that is evident in the urban area. Now related to the migration and almost linked up, we have issue of very important urbanization. So urbanization is something which is very much linked up with both population as well as migration. So in urbanization, first of all, you need to understand the basic feature and patterns of India's urbanization. What are the different urban areas we have? How the urban area has been classified in different categories? What is this particularly concept of metropolis? What is this concept of megalopolis? What is this concept of conurbation? What is this concept of rural urban influence, rural urban fringe? So all these you are supposed to study. Then you will have issues and challenges of urbanization. So these issues of and challenges of urbanization is very widespread. So you need to look out from the water perspective, from the sanitation perspective, from the education perspective, from the healthcare perspective, from the security perspective, from the gender parity perspective, from the transportation perspective, from the your roads perspective, traffic perspective. So we have various issues and problems persisting in the urban area. And almost these problems is evident throughout the country. So it is not that this problem is only limited to the few major metropolis like Mumbai or Delhi or Kolkata or Chennai. Almost throughout the country, even most of the state capitals, you will find these problems. So what are these problems? Then the concept of some of the modern ways to tackle these issues. So how we are trying to tackle these issues, the problem that the urban area is facing. Like you will have the waste disposal, because when you will have large number of people are living, the population is increasing and more people will have more wastage, domestic waste. So the waste disposal will become a very problematic area. So the concept of like particularly smart city concept or the concept of this sustainable development. So all these you need to study. Then very important issue associated with the urban area, that is urban flooding. Urban flooding is something which is purely a man-made. So it has nothing to do with the very high rainfall. So it has nothing to do with the normal, natural flooding. So it is a man-made. Because whenever there will be a rainfall in the urban area for only few hours, so few hours rainfall will create a problem in the urban area, create a situation in the urban area that will be more or less like a flooding. So this flooding situation is not because of the very huge rainfall. This flooding situation is mainly because the cities are growing. The cities are growing exponentially, but in accordance to that, particularly the drainage facility is not growing. Like whenever the cities are growing, there will be a huge traffic jam. So to decongest the traffic, the government will go for some of the construction of new roads, new expressways, outer ring road. But in case of drainage, we are not increasing our drainage facility. So that is the issue of urban flooding. Then you will have water supply, drainage, sanitation problem. Also you will have emergence of slum, how these slum population emerge, why the government is allowing this emergence of slum, why the government is not controlling this slum, or what measures the government has taken, what policies, what solutions the government have devised to tackle the issue of slum. So that you will study in case of emergence of slum population. Migration related, you will find less number of questions in prelims, but the migration and urbanization is topics. This is the area which you can see it is a hidden area, gray area. So from these you can expect in the question in your prelims also. But regularly questions is being asked in the mains examination. Like just last year the question was account for huge flooding of million cities in India, including the smart ones like Hyderabad and Pune. So the problem of this flooding is not only limited to the conventional cities, even the smart cities also facing this. Suggest lasting remedial measures. One more topic related to that is settlement. So in settlement, some brief idea you need to know. This is also one of the area where from where less number of question has been asked, but you should be ready and you can expect some of the question from these areas. So in settlement, you need to know the rural settlement, urban settlement, how this settlement is being differentiated, problems associated with the rural settlement, rural housing problem, rural sanitation problem, rural drinking water, providing urban facility in the rural area, the concept of Pura. This rural settlement can be studied with a topic like water issues. So whatever the policies like Jal Jeevan Mission that is being initiated, you need to link up with the settlement. Now the last part is the world mapping. So world mapping, you need to do it very seriously because regularly questions being asked from the world mapping. And as I said in case of India mapping also, this is the topic that will give you an edge because the questions will be comparatively static in nature. So questions, higher chances will be static in nature, and even sometimes the question gets repeated also. So questions will get repeated, questions will be static, but of course it will check your conceptual clarity. So if you will not having the conceptual clarity, obviously you will not be able to answer. So because of that, you need to seriously do the world mapping. Some of the major topics, some of the major area you can focus for the world mapping happens to be political. Political means you need to look out the countries. So like you will have the country like India, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan. So the question can be asked like arrange these countries in north to south or arrange these countries in the south to north. So you need to have clarity. You need to have clarity about the different countries that are present in the South Asia, East Asia, Indian subcontinent, North America, Europe, Northern Europe, Eurasia. So you need to look out the political, particularly map. Along with that, you are also supposed to be clear with the capital cities and also the major cities. Like in India, you are not only supposed to look out the particularly your New Delhi. You are also supposed to have idea about the cities like Kolkata, cities like Mumbai, cities like Chennai. In the similar manner, throughout the world, identify the major regions. Like you will have the present Ukraine-Russia crisis. So look out all these steppe regions, all the countries. Try to arrange these countries in the east, west. Try to arrange these countries in the north, south. Then we will have major and minor water bodies. So water bodies like oceans आप करेंगे ही करेंगे. Along with that, look out the seas, look out the particularly Gulf, look out the bays, look out the straits. So all these you need to locate. Then we will have the grasslands. So different grasslands, steppe grasses, tropical grasses, savanna grasses. So all the grasslands, when you will look out, when you will identify the biomes, along with that grassland. So different volcanoes that are distributed throughout the world. Not only the Circum-Pacific, the Ring of Fire, but other than the Ring of Fire, also identify some of the major volcanic sites of your Indian Ocean, identify some of the major volcanic site in the Mediterranean region. Then you will have the deserts, both the hot deserts as well as cold deserts. So identify the major deserts like Sahara, Chi-Hua 1, then you will have the your Namibia deserts, so all the deserts. Then most of the mountain peaks, so identify the major mountains of the world and identify their peaks. Also try to look out some of the peaks that whether let's say you will have the Kilimanjaro and then you will have the Himalayan, the Mount Everest. So whether the Mount Everest is north of Kilimanjaro or it is south of Kilimanjaro. Major trading routes, major dams, reservoirs. So all these you need to focus. Regularly questions being asked, I have included few questions like what is the correct sequence of occurrence of the following cities in Southeast Asia as one proceeds from south to north. So some of the cities are being given: Bangkok, Hanoi, Jakarta, Singapore. You need to arrange. Turkey is located between. So your knowledge of political geography as well as your water bodies. Black Sea and Caspian Sea, Black Sea and Mediterranean Sea, Gulf of Suez and Mediterranean Sea, Gulf of Aqaba and Dead Sea. Which one of the following countries of Southwest Asia does not open out to the Mediterranean Sea? This is a very popular question. 2-3 times have been repeated. Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel. So regularly you will get question from the world mapping. This is very important area and you should not ignore it. You should not ignore it. So these are the topics that you should prepare related to the human and economic geography. And if you have any doubts, you have any query, definitely you can reach me out. So just go through with these 4 sessions of the geography micro detailing of the topics, and I am hopeful that if you will complete the whole series, you will not find questions both in prelims and both in mains related to the geography out of context. तो कोई भी क्वेश्चन आपको ऐसा नहीं लगेगा कि नहीं ये तो ज्योग्राफी का नहीं, यार ज्योग्राफी में कुछ भी पूछा जा रहा है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल यू नीड टू हैव आइडिया. पहले आपको आइडिया होना चाहिए कि क्या है स्कोप ऑफ द सिलेबस. बिकॉज इन जनरल देयर इज अ पॉपुलर परसेप्शन अमंग द स्टूडेंट कि ज्योग्राफी मतलब कि सारा का सारा फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी. सो स्टूडेंट्स विल हैव अ popular perception that geography is all about the mountains, peaks, plains, plateaus. It is all about the oceans. It is all about the climate. They are not very much aware that geography is very wide. So it is not only the your physical. It also includes the human geography, cultural geography, social geography, economic geography, political geography. So just go through with all the sessions related to this micro detailing of the GS geography, and I am hopeful that it will be highly helpful for you. That's it from my side. Thank you.